Welcome to the 7th part of our e-lecture series, International Project Management, brought to you by Lübeck University in cooperation with On Campus. In this part, we are still discussing the planning phase of an international project. And what is of importance in this phase here? We talked about some aspects already. We talked about the tasks that need to be identified. We talked about the milestones. We talked about risk analysis. And here, the key element of the project planning phase is the project structure plan. What is it, the project structure plan? The project structure plan is also called WBS, Work Breakdown Structure. So the aim is to break down the project, the entire project, like, I don't know, the construction of a house, of an airport, or the acquisition of a different kind of company, or the launch of a product in a specific country, to break it down in subtasks. They are also called sub-projects. So these are bigger chunks of tasks, and these are further broken down into so-called work packages. And a work package is a bundle of tasks. So you remember in the last session we talked about the identification of the tasks. And several tasks have to be put together into a so-called work package. And different kind of work packages put together make up a so-called subtask or a sub-project. And this is the core piece of an international project management in the planning phase, what you need to do. So the project structure plan, like I said, breaks down the project in the different kind of aspects. Let's not focus on the text here, let's focus on the graph. This is the project, and the project is broken down into sub-projects or sub-tasks, and these subtasks are further broken down into these work packages here. And we have an even better illustration of that here. It is a bit more comprehensive than on the previous slide. So this is the project at the bottom here, at the top. And the project is broken down into the subtasks, and I say it again, and this is further broken down into work packages. And this is the structure of a WBS, of a work breakdown structure, as the core element of project planning. And of course, a work package, like I've said before, is broken down into different kind of tasks. So it is comprised of different kind of tasks. But this is not listed here in the work breakdown structure. Otherwise it would not be very illustrative, because you would have to list here hundreds of different kind of tasks. So it doesn't make any sense. So the tasks, they go into what we call the flow planning, when you look at the chronological order of the project. So the aim is basically the structuring of the project into subtasks, work packages and tasks, and you need to specify different characteristics for each element being involved. So a work package, being an element of the WBS, the work breakdown structure, is a meaningful subtask that can be completed within itself. It has a clearly defined result. It can be delegated to an individual or a team, third characteristic, and it should be as separate as possible from other activities in order to ensure that there is no overlap. And it has, we talked about that, it's very similar, it has a calculable, controllable expenditure. So, like said before, you need to assign resources for that, so capital being involved. It makes sense if you plan your project, if you do it thoroughly, in order to avoid any kind of mistakes or miscommunication, to have a tool which we call work package description. And this description here, this tool, lists for every work package what are the key tasks here, tasks that need to be done. It makes sense if you have a project, I'm quickly plotting one, if the project is at the top here, and this is divided in subtasks, and then in different kind of work packages here, it makes sense to have a number for each of them. So this is subtask number 1, and this is working package number 1.2, and this is working package number 1.1, for example. And then you have subtask 2, and then you have working package 2.1, and so on and so forth. What is the advantage of having a structure like that and to list it? It makes sense to list it here. So for example, if this is the work package description of the work package 2.1, you would list the appropriate tasks also accordingly. So 2.1.1, and then you specify the task. 2.1.2, you specify the task, and so on and so forth. Of course, this looks overcomplicated, this looks very bureaucratic and it's cumbersome. We acknowledge that. However, it makes sense in order to ensure that you arrive at a perfect flow plan, because all too often in projects, in real life, we have an inconsistency between the work breakdown structure and flow plan, which leads to problems when it comes to the execution, implementation of the project. So here you list different kind of interdependencies here, between the tasks. So, like said in the previous session, some tasks, they depend on one another. For example, one task can only be started after another one has been completed. So you would list here, for example, that 1.2, task 1.2 has an interface with this one here. So it needs to be completed until 2.1.1 can start. Here are some risks that are involved. You take this from the risk matrix, and of course you need to specify the start date, the end date, the cost in terms of mandate. So how many working days do you need? How many people? The cost, and you need to sign that. So the person being responsible for a different kind of work package is going to sign that. So this makes sense to use tools. It also ensures that everybody is working with the same kind of tools, that you have the similar and consistent structure. And then this work breakdown structure is followed by the project flow planning. And I've mentioned that before. The project flow planning means that you think about in which chronological order do you have to work on the task and work on the work packages. So which is the logical sequence? And which work packages can be processed in parallel, which are independent from another, and which one are dependent on another? So the flow planning provides information on the schedule in general. It also helps you to identify certain kind of bottlenecks. It sets the deadlines, the due dates, and it helps you as a project manager to monitor, to control the progress. The presentation on the work outcomes and the flow of the project is usually visualized in a Gantt chart or a PERT chart. Let's look at those. A generic project flow plan looks like here, like this one here. This is something like a network plan. you have here, for example, working package 1, then you have working package 2, working package 3, and you see that different kind of working packages or tasks can be done in parallel, like these two here, 2 and 3, and some are dependent on one another. So if you list here 4, this 4 is dependent on 3. So 3 and 2 have to be completed, and then only then working package 4 can be initiated. You can also have a schedule plan which lists the different kind of subtasks and working packages and the different kind of tasks in this kind of chart. So you have the different kind of bars depending on the software you're using. Usually, in most cases, you would use some tool like OpenOffice project, Open Project, or you would use Microsoft Project or similar software. Don't use Excel. This is, of course, what most people are familiar with, but it doesn't make sense because it's not showing very precisely all the interdependencies between the different kind of tasks. So that would be our advice. So this was the 7th part, a bit longer. Thanks very much for staying tuned, keeping in touch, for your attention, and we are very much looking forward to seeing you again. Cheers and bye-bye.